What's up? How's it going? It's me, and I'm back. I'm back. God damn it, I'm back. Oops, I probably should have did this first. So anyway, here I is. I'm back. Let's see. What day is this? Do I even know what day it is? This has been an interesting day for me. I am completely out of cahoots here. So bear with me. So hey, how's it going? Everybody, I am going to attempt to grab this thing by the coattail and get on down the road. Hey, what's up, James? Like an old timer told me one time. I asked him, I said, man, how you stay on this job so long? He said, man, just grab it by the tail and hold on. I said, oh, okay. That's what I do. So, what day is this? This is 7/11, the 11th. What day is? Oh, this Friday. Oh, I'm sorry. I am discombobulated today. James, what's going on, man? Everything good with you? I'm going to assume that's a yes. uh, I definitely had a interesting day today. I got to tell you, it's something. All good. Good. Glad to hear it. All right. Well, since it's me and you, let's sit here and talk about this Epstein thing for a minute. One of the listeners or participants last Wednesday kind of got me a little more interested in Epstein. I did not get a chance to do as much research as I would have liked. I'm going to attempt to rectify that in the future. But piqued my curiosity, with the Mossad thing. And I had heard quite a bit that he was part of Mossad. And, I just started nibbling around the edges today. I yesterday didn't get a chance to do much. Hey, what's up, Charles? How's it going? Didn't get a chance to do much research. That participant, I can't remember his name. He had an interesting name. He or she had an interesting name, and I can't remember it. Anyway, but they mentioned research. And understand something. That's something I preach. Research. I appreciate research, because research may be a little time consuming, but in most cases, it's free. And you learn some interesting stuff when you do a little research, just a little. You can do more if you like. And the more you do, the more you're going to find out, the more you know. I am a big advocate of research. A lot of people hear the word research and is put off by that word or afraid of that word or think that there's a lot to do when you're researching something. And in most cases, excuse me, In most cases, there's not a ton before you will learn something new. You can usually scratch just below the surface as long as you know the sources that you're digging in are reputable sources. And how do you know that? They ask me. How do you know when you are dealing with a reputable source? Well, you do a little research on the source. All you have to do is look up organizations that the source is affiliated with. Look up places where this source may be getting donations from. And in most cases, that will tell you most of what you need to know. That's how you can find out if you're dealing with a reputable source. So, let's start doing some research out there in the world about things that we're interested in, things that we're interested in, and things that affect our daily lives. A lot of times, something will affect your life. You'll hear something on the 5 or 2 minute soundbite news that we're getting spoon-fed every day, that I've actually become disgusted with. The 2 minute soundbite spoon-fed news. I got to tell you, the places I used to enjoy listening to, I'm just put off because it's just too many. It went from what seemed like used to be an actual discussion about an issue to just 2 minutes of what happened, 30 seconds of what somebody thought about it, and let's move on to the newest line of Crocs that are being introduced. Look at these. We got a deal on the show. You can get them for 30% off. So that is, what we see today. Hey, Carmen, how are you? So, let's start doing a little research. Just scratch down below the surface, see if you got a reputable source, do a little digging on some of the issues that you're interested in, some of the things that concern you, some of the things that affect your life. Let's start looking at it. Let's start looking and seeing what's going on for real. Okay? Now, like I said, this person put me a little more interested in Epstein. And when I started just earlier today, hey, Charles, that is the new news. That is the new news. You get, I was watching, what is it? Something I really like to watch. I like to watch The View. And, but I really can't get into that anymore because while they have some great subjects coming out of the chute, the network seems to be quick to get to, hey, look at what we got for a deal, in the show. Later on in the show, where you can get, the latest pots and pans at a deal. The latest makeup at a deal. And I understand these are variety talk shows. CBS This Morning, it is journalism, but variety journalism. Their whole second hour is fluff. They got a 2-hour show, Most of these morning shows are 2 hours. The first hour is supposed to be stuff related to, hey, the news. This is the news that's going on, you know. And with this new political atmosphere, they hopping around the news like we can't spend a second on it because our feet will get too hot. And you see what happened with CBS. They just spent, what, $17 million, was it 16, 11, some number like that, just to satisfy that whiny baby in the White House. They literally scared to go to court with him. This guy's beating all the networks down so bad that they scared. He sued CBS for what every network does, especially Fox. Fox does it, and what it is you've all seen it, early in the morning, they will give you a tidbit of what's coming on later. What's coming on, like CBS. Later, on 60 Minutes, and they show you a sound bite, and then later on 60 Minutes, they show you the whole clip of the interview. You only get a sound bite in the morning. That's called a teaser. They give you a teaser in the morning so you can tune in later and get the whole thing. Trump sued him about that. Every network does it. Fox does it all day, every day. And they were so chicken shit that they paid. They paid. Same way ABC did. ABC sued Trump because a judge called Trump a rapist. And George Stephanopoulos said, according to a judge, he's a rapist. According to this judge, he's a rapist. Now, George Stephanopoulos didn't call him a rapist. He said, according to this judge, he's a rapist. Trump sued. They caved, paid $10 million. So that's what we got. So we can't really rely on the stuff we getting today. And I done got way off the mark. Anyway, just wanted to impress upon you all, hey, let's do some research. Let's start. First of all, let's not do the research on these things right here. Okay. Let's pick up a laptop, an iPad. I don't know about an iPad because, I don't know if that's literally considered a full computer or a mobile device. If it's a mobile device, understand something about mobile devices. This is a mobile device. A laptop, a full-size laptop, is considered an actual computer. Okay? Understand something. When you do research on a mobile device, the information that is fed to a mobile device is in a mobile version. It has been cut down. You cannot get all of the information. If you notice something, go to any website on your telephone. If you scroll down to the bottom, there's a little link that says desktop version. Desktop version. You can click on that, and that thing will feed you the desktop version, desktop computer version of that website. And understand something, you'll be so overwhelmed on that little bitty screen that, I don't know what to tell you. That's why I say, when you're looking up stuff, when you're doing the internet, hey, grab you something with a big screen. Anything you're doing, stop doing everything on this. Stop relying on this for everything. Please. So we're going to do a little research, and when you do your research, just make sure you look into who you're getting your information from. All right? Okay. I'm done with that. And the only reason I even brought the research part up was because one of you viewers, one of you participants out there mentioned doing research Wednesday, and I agree with that 100%. I'm often guilty of not doing enough research, but I'm an advocate of doing research, and research is not hard. The word just sounds hard. Okay, it's not hard. It's simple. It's free. All you have to know is the right questions to punch into the old laptop. And you'll get good at it if you just start. All right. Again, I wanted to look at old Epstein today. And the first thing that took me by surprise was all of MAGA is upset. We already know that. MAGA is pissed, okay? Because Pam Bondi, John Bongino, Kash Patel, Trump, what's Elon? Everybody for 6 years has been talking about the Epstein files. We all know that. By the way, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up, ring that bell, and subscribe, and share this with somebody you know. It'll help. Thanks. MAGA world spent 6 years talking about Epstein. One thing we know Epstein was a pedophile. We know he was already in jail once prior to him going into this holding facility where he met his demise. But prior to that, he was in jail. And he was allowed to come and go as if he wasn't in jail. Now, the only person I ever seen do that before was Otis on the Andy Griffith Show. Okay? That's the only person that I recall being allowed to do that. But Epstein was allowed to do that. That brings about questions. They got tons of files when they caught him this second time. Yeah, Otis. Hey, speaking of Otis, can anybody tell me what, just on Otis, because I just thought of that, can anybody tell me what is the one thing about Otis that is completely different from everybody else in town? Everybody else on the show. Can anybody tell me what it is about Otis that singles Otis out from everybody else? I'll give you 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, too late. Buzzer just went off. The reason Otis was different than everybody, and the reason Otis checked himself into jail every night drunk as a skunk, was because, don't know if you knew this, Otis was the only one character that was married. Don't know if you knew that or not. Otis was the only one of the characters that was married. And Otis stayed drunk and in jail. Okay, just a little FYI. Anyway, so they got all these files on Epstein. We know Epstein was a financier. Epstein was a billionaire financier. We know one of Epstein's best friends, and I can't pronounce this man's name again, the prior Prime Minister of Israel is Epstein's best buddy. The prior Prime Minister of Israel is Epstein's buddy. The other Epstein buddy, you guessed it, Donald John Trump. For 15 years, Donald John Trump and Jeffrey Epstein was inseparable. Okay? These things are proven. Okay? There's proof. Undeniable proof of these things, these facts I just mentioned. Another fact. Ghislaine Maxwell, daddy, was Robert Maxwell, which was a Mossad asset. He was. This is been proven. This is fact. Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison right now for the crimes that she helped Jeffrey Epstein perpetrate on the minors, the human trafficking and all of that. Epstein had an island where all manner of things took place. Now, one thing we can understand, there is no way in hell a billionaire, a connected billionaire, who is himself a pedophile. We understand how deep the pedophilia runs around the globe. Understand something. We're talking about the entire planet. We ain't talking the United States. We know these rich people, these billionaires, especially, he also is said to have had ties with the Saudis. Okay? Did he? That one, I don't know. It is looking more and more like it. We know what the Saudi princes and the, I don't know how to address them, but the rich Saudis, we know what the kind of stuff that they're into. Okay? So, it should not be a stretch to say Epstein had files on the people he hung out with. It's not a stretch to say Epstein had a list of people he dealt with and contact lists and all these people that went to the parties. Okay? We just like Diddy. They got a list of the people that went to the parties. You know it. Mighty funny. That list ain't came out, is it? The lists are not seeing the light of day. Okay? That's just the way it is. All right? Now, for 6 years, Trump and all of his MAGA connections have touted everything. Epstein 24/7. and Biden. Now, we are 6 months into this administration. I got a question for you. 1 month in, did anybody say, sorry, we looked into Epstein stuff, ain't nothing there? You know, Biden and them must have got rid of it. 2 months in. Hey, we looked into the Epstein stuff. They must have got rid of it. Ain't nothing there. 3 months in. Hey, we looked into the Epstein stuff. Biden and them must have got rid of it. 4 months in. Did we hear any of this? We looked into the Epstein stuff. There's nothing in the file. 5 months in. Okay, we 6 months in. Now, over the 4th and 5th month, we got Pam Bondi, Bongino. Well, Bongino just got there in the last couple of months. We got Kash Patel. Yeah, Kash Patel literally said the director of the FBI is the person that would have the file. That's the only person would have it. If you need the file, that's who's got it. He becomes director of the FBI. Now, he was going to close the FBI building the first day, day one. Well, I guess that didn't happen. Anyway, there's a lot of day one in this administration that didn't happen, but I digress. So, we got all of these people. Now, they're in position. All of a sudden, Elon Musk rears his ugly head and comes online and say, Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. Kash Patel is on Joe Rogan's podcast the minute that they find out Elon Musk just dropped the bomb that Donald Trump is in the files. And Kash Patel immediately says, I know my lane, and that's not it. Joe Rogan asked Kash Patel, hey, Kash, why would Elon say that? Why would Elon say that? He immediately says, I know my lane, and that's not it. You're the director of the FBI. You're the FBI director. You're the guy. Joe Rogan asked him, how would he know? How would Elon know? Has he seen the file? How would he know? I don't know. I know my lane, and that ain't it. Wait a minute. If it's anybody's lane, it's yours. If it's anybody's lane, it's yours. And now they've come along and say, okay, nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see here, folks. All right. So, now that there's nothing to see here, in other words, you're not going to get me fired. Yeah, right. Absolutely. Okay. In other words, hey, you ain't getting my ass chewed out. Right. I get it. But now that they've dropped this bomb, they put a video out, 11 hours of video of one angle in the prison. One angle. There's only one camera showing that particular area. Where's the camera that shows the cell block? Where's the camera that shows the door leading to the cell block? Where's the camera that show directly down on the guards? Where's the cameras that show everything? We got one camera angle, and at the very end of it, there is a minute missing. And Pam Bondi's excuse is, well, there's a minute missing out of every night. Yeah, okay, right. That's real useful. All right. Now, here's the rub. Here's the rub. All of the Jewish podcasters are saying, hey, I believe the president. You know, you got Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, all of the ones with a Jewish last name is saying, yeah, Trump is right. Trump is right. I ain't got no reason to doubt him. Okay, let's explore this right quick. Let's listen to Ben Shapiro, some of his spiel.
Openly acknowledge that what they're saying to you publicly and what they say privately are two different things on the same matters, well, then maybe you ought to take what they say with a grain of salt rather than suggesting that, for example, Donald Trump is lying to you about Jeffrey Epstein, or Dan Bongino, with whom I am friends, is lying to you about Jeffrey Epstein, or Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, is lying to you about Jeffrey Epstein, because those are your only two choices here. Either Alex Jones, as is usual, blew a conspiracy theory out of proportion, and so did the rest of the internet, or Dan Bongino and Kash Patel and Donald Trump are all lying to you. Those are your choices. There is no third choice. President Trump, for his part, says, quote, the FBI, under the direction of Director Kash Patel and Deputy Director Dan Bongino, is back to the basics, locking up criminals, cleaning up America's streets. We have the greatest law enforcement professionals in the world, but politics and corrupt leadership often prevented them from doing their job. That is no longer the case, and now they have been unleashed to do their jobs, and they are doing just that. Keep it up. Make America safe again. That's President Trump defending the people that he selected for these jobs. And again, I have no reason to believe that Dan Bongino, for example, or Kash Patel at the FBI, or Donald Trump, or J.D. Vance, or any of the other people in the administration who have spoken about this before and now are saying that Epstein killed himself and that there is no Epstein list. I don't have any reason to believe those people are lying to me, and they have better information than I do. All I can do, rationally speaking, from my own perspective, is say that I believe them. Now, could evidence emerge that completely contradicts all of that, and it turns out they were part of a conspiracy? Sure, that could happen. And when that happens, I will change my opinion. All of this is part and parcel of a broader theory that's being spun out by people like Tucker, that the real story here, the real story, is that Jeffrey Epstein was either a domestic intelligence agent or a domestic intelligence asset working for the CIA or with the CIA, or a foreign intelligence asset on X, obviously, because this is how X is constructed. He must be Mossad, right? This was the going theory in the online space. And if the evidence is not released to justify that theory, or if the DOJ and FBI say that theory isn't true, that is not proof that the theory isn't true. It's not even evidence the theory isn't true. It actually is evidence the theory is true. And this is the problem with conspiracy theories generally. The great wonder of a conspiracy theory is that it is totally unfalsifiable. So if the DOJ and FBI say there's no evidence for the proposition that you are putting forth, this just means they're in on it.
Now, what you just saw is classic stick your hand in the water and swish up the mud at the bottom and muddy up the water. Now, during that podcast, he attacked Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson. Now, that's MAGA against MAGA. That's what we've gotten today. That's MAGA on MAGA crime. We've just witnessed MAGA on MAGA crime. All right? That's Ben Shapiro attacking Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson. He called Alex Jones, well, he didn't call him this. He did reference Alex Jones's own lawyer later on or earlier in it as saying Alex Jones is just performative acting. Okay? So, well, I know that, but a lot of people don't know Alex Jones is just always putting on an act. Anyway, but Ben Shapiro is attacking the other MAGA podcasters and screaming, you gotta believe Donald Trump. Why is Ben Shapiro doing that? Why is Ben Shapiro, after all the stuff that has been proven, that we know for sure? There's no way. One thing you're not going to tell anybody. One thing you're not going to tell anybody is there's no list. You can tell anybody anything you want to tell them. Bondi, Bongino, Cash Patel, Trump. Y'all can tell everybody anything. You cannot tell us that there's no list. We know that's bullshit. In the words of Trump, that's bullshit. Okay? So, if anybody wants to know if let's just take another listen to another conversation. I was listening to Judge Napolitano. I don't know if any of you know him. He's a prior judge. I'm not a big fan. He sometimes gets it, sometimes. Andrew Napolitano, he's a judge, prior judge. Let's listen to a conversation on his podcast, and let's take it from there.
Epstein, a Mossad asset?
Well, Alex Acosta, the Florida prosecutor, declared him to be, said that he belonged to intelligence. I think he was told to basically retract that comment. A Saudi passport or Saudi ID card was found in Jeffrey Epstein's belongings, among his belongings after he died or supposedly committed suicide. His partner, his wing woman, Ghislaine Maxwell, who was convicted of trafficking minors to him exclusively, not to anyone else, was the daughter of Robert Maxwell, who received practically a state funeral in Israel. What had Mossad chiefs at his funeral, and his last phone call was to Samuel Pisar, who was the father and the stepfather of Tony Blinken, who is his fixer, who is also the head of the French Jewish lobby. Robert Maxwell was definitely a Mossad agent. So there are all these connections to Jeffrey Epstein through the Mossad. But really, ultimately, maybe Jeffrey Epstein's ultimate legacy was helping elect Trump by convincing a bunch of low IQ MAGA dupes that Trump was going to take on the deep state and release all these Epstein files. And at the end of the day, as Trump himself said, Trump didn't want to ruin a bunch of lives by releasing what he considered phony material, which could have come back and harmed him. No one was closer in U.S. politics to Jeffrey Epstein than Donald Trump. Why did anyone think that Donald Trump was going to be the one to expose the Epstein network? Well, they were dupes. They were bamboozled. They were took. They were the butt of a P.T. Barnum joke. And now, I mean, I just look at them and laugh as I see this gigantic online social media meltdown of MAGA.
Hey, sounds good to me. He makes a point. Hey, that's something we can all sit back and laugh at. They got duped into thinking Trump was going to put this information out. They literally thought Trump was going to expose this information. You would have to be an idiot to think Trump was going to expose the Epstein circle. You'd have to be the biggest chump out there to believe that. Okay? So, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. But those files may never see the light of day. Why Joe Biden and them didn't do it? Well, probably because plenty of Joe Biden's friends and financiers was on the list. That list, there's always this conspiracy theory that there's this group of people who behind the scenes running the world. Well, understand there is an extremely powerful group of people out there in the world. The problem with trying to rely on a rich person exposing rich people is, you get it. You get it? Trying to rely on rich people to expose other rich people. You don't want to get kicked out of the organization of rich people, now do you? And there has to be an organization of rich people because everything else has an organization, right? We're not stupid. Everything out there has an organization. There's an organization of this, organization of that. So we know there's an organization of rich people. And the reason you don't know anything about it is because you're not in it. Okay? So you have to be one of the dumbest people in the world to think Donald Trump is going to expose all of these other rich people that would be on this list. But they love Donald Trump's draws so bad, they literally believed him telling them, I am going to provide you with the list. We're going to expose everyone that's on the list. Just vote for me. Vote for me, and I will expose the list. And then when asked about it, literally get pissed and say, y'all still talking about that guy? What we talking about that guy for? Nobody want to hear nothing about that guy. Epstein who? As if they didn't spend 6 years screaming about Epstein. Now all of a sudden, y'all still talking about him? Who want to know anything about him? Man, anybody think about him? That's case closed. The meltdown continues. I love the fact that they're melting down about it. I would really love to know if this is going to blow over like everything else he gets caught screwing up does. He seems to be able to screw up and they just say, well, okay, he screwed up. It's all right. It's him. He can do that. This one might be kind of big. I'm dying to know. Well, not dying, but I really love to know if he gets to blow this one over. All right. I'm going to leave it there on Epstein, until I see something new and unusual. I'm going to go and do me some research to find out if I can find any definite ties or anything. And if I find out anything, I'll bring it back up. I just got a little bit interest in it. My curiosity is piqued. So I'm going to do a little research, see what I can find out. All right. Moving on for this last few minutes. For those of you who didn't understand what the big bill meant for people on Medicaid, the Agriculture Secretary just yesterday stood in front of the mic and said what they plan for that. There's you have to work for your Medicaid language in the big bill, that big law that was passed. I don't know if any of you saw this, but this right here, I'm going to play, is what they plan for the people on Medicaid. Listen to the last bit of her speech and tell me if this don't tell you everything you need to know about why they have constantly been sending ice to all the farms and what the plan is. She lays the plan out perfect for the people on Medicaid. Listen to her speech.
Mary Rollins, Mary Margaret with the Daily Wire. Two questions, if that's okay. First of all, I'm seeing on this map that there's a lot of Chinese-owned farmland in California. Are you looking into the severity of that and what those consequences are? And then number two, the president has expressed concerns about how mass deportations would affect the farm industry. Do you have concerns on this front? And are you hearing about some of these top conservatives saying that there's a push for amnesty for this workforce?
Well, thank you for those questions. The first thing I'll say on California, and I'd love for anyone else to join me if they have thoughts on that, is this, that a lot of people said, well, look at the red states are the ones leading the way. The red states are the ones that are banning the Chinese-owned farmland, and this is true. But I have to believe that even the Democrat governors and even the blue states realize what a massive threat this is to national security and how important it is. So we plan to work with everyone, no matter which party, no matter which side of the aisle they're from, to ensure that the people of this country and our agriculture farmland is protected. The second question, I appreciate you bringing that up. There's been a lot of noise in the last few days and a lot of questions about where the president stands in his vision for farm labor. The first thing I'll say is the president has been unequivocal that there will be no amnesty, and I think that's very, very important. I and the rest of our cabinet certainly support that, effectuate that, and make sure that happens every single day. The second thing, to your question about mass deportations, the president and I have spoken about that once or twice, and he has always been of the mindset that at the end of the day, the promise to America to ensure that we have a 100% American workforce stands, but we must be strategic in how we are implementing the mass deportation so as not to compromise our food supply. Ultimately, the answer on this is automation, also some reform within the current governing structure, and then also when you think about there are 34 million able-bodied adults in our Medicaid program. There are plenty of workers in America, but we just have to make sure we're not compromising today, especially in the context of everything we're thinking about right now. So no amnesty under any circumstances. Mass deportations continue, but in a strategic and intentional way as we move our workforce toward more automation and toward a 100% American workforce.
A 100% American workforce. Mass deportations. We're going to protect our food supply. And remember, we got 34 million able-bodied people on Medicaid. Yeah, some balls. She just laid out the plan that this administration has. They plan to make the people on Medicaid work these farm jobs. I mean, that blew me away. You say good luck with that. Hey, man, dude, did you hear it? She said, and don't forget, we got 34 million able-bodied people on Medicaid. They got a plan. She just said it. And by the way, that was the 8th. That was not yesterday. It was the 8th of July. My mistake. But she laid the plan out. Ain't no amnesty. No amnesty. So I guess they said to hell with that indentured slave thing they was talking about the other day, where they give the farmers some responsibility for the undocumented immigrants on the farm. We'll have some kind of papers drawn up where the farmer can be responsible for the immigrant. Let's see. That's indentured servitude, if I'm not mistaken. That is, we're going to give you these papers for these people. You hold on to the papers for the people. Now, at the top of the paper ain't going to read title, is it? Or owner, property owner. It's not going to have that at the top, is it? You know, I guess that idea didn't go over well. I guess they said, well, no, I guess we can't, I guess we can't make them slaves. We can't get away with that no more. I think people too smart for that shit. We tried it, but that didn't go over well. So, tell you what, we do got 34 million folks right here that we can kind of herd into applying for those jobs. We can herd them into it. If you're an able-bodied person, you can't get Medicaid or Medicare. Well, I think you can. I think there's different aspects and different states. See, the thing about Medicaid, you can't get Medicare, but Medicaid is a state-run program. Okay. Certain states, different states have different guidelines. Medicaid is run by the states. So some states, I think you can get Medicaid as an able-bodied person, because at the risk of making a mistake here in my thinking, bear with me, I think that the thought process is some states allow you to get Medicaid because the other side of the coin would be situations where you have to go to the emergency room and therefore burden the hospital system. Okay? I think the thought process is let you have some type of insurance to keep you from being at the emergency room every day and fucking that system up. So, and also, if you're a parent, your children can be on Medicaid, even if you're not working. And I think part of it is because you're not working. If you're not working, your children can be on Medicaid. And I think that is the issue. Papers, please. You know what? We gonna go into that Monday. Papers, please. Yes. That's where we're going. That's exactly where we're going. And I spent so much time on Epstein. I want to spend a little more time on that papers. Because that can be, half an episode all by itself. And I think that's what we may do Monday. Yes, I forgot about that. Thanks for reminding me. Let me make me a note that's gonna be Monday. But that's where we are. Papers. Let me see your papers. So you gotta have your papers. If you're able-bodied, you better go on down to that farm, or you're not gonna get any Medicaid. They're going to start directing people to farmers. I bet you in the Medicaid process, the application process, where they said you have to work or volunteer. They said you have to work or volunteer. I wonder where they're going to be directing you to volunteer. Man, about to get wild up in here. About to get wild. So, and again, they did this very craftily. They made all of the effective dates to this next big, beautiful mess that they just signed into law. They made sure all of these dates were dated 2026. After 2026, like December 2026, after the election. All of this stuff takes place after the midterm election. Until then, it's all peaches and cream. Nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see here. Everything's hunky-dory. Everything's great. No Epstein files. Nobody going to jail. Pam Bondi said there was thousands. She said thousands. Like over 10,000 of videos of child pornography. It couldn't have been 10,000 videos of just children. There had to be some adults. She said, ain't none of the victims gonna be exposed. Nobody wants the victims exposed. So, nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see here. So, anyway, we're going to get into some new developments. I even looked into something today for myself. I was like, hey, I better get on the ball too, because, hey, this shit might hit me in the rear end. And I ain't really liking that idea too much. So anyway, hey, thanks for hanging out. Tell you what, meet me here Monday and we'll check some more stuff out. I really hate the fact that my new friend didn't tune in this evening. Kind of wish they did. Anyway, Monday, we're going to go into some of that papers. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. I'm going to get on out of here. Y'all have a good weekend. I'm going to do the weekend, and I'm going to make it fun. I'm going to have some fun. I'm going to do something that's fun for a change. I suggest you do it too. See you Monday. All right? Thanks. Take it easy.